morning, everybody. How you all doing? Pretty good here, and welcome to the channel. I'm out cruising around in the C43 this morning, and this is a Mercedes C43. And I want to get on here and go over 5 things that I don't like about this car. I mean, I love the car overall, but there's 5 things I don't like about this car. The first thing is, are the settings. And not particularly the settings themselves, and I'm talking about the performance or the drive mode settings. There are 5 settings on this car that you can choose from. The default is comfort, and the problem that I have with that is that you can't change the default. In other words, every time you get in the car, you put your foot on the brake and push the start button, you're in comfort mode. And you can't change that. You can't change that easily. And what I wish that the car had was that when you got in it, it would default to whatever mode that you set it at. Now, you can change the mode before you actually start the car, but there's a process in doing that. And the way that works is you get in, you have the key fob in your pocket, you push the stop-start button without your foot on the brake, you push it a second time without your foot on the brake, and then you can change all the settings. You can change it to where you want. Then you put your foot on the brake and you start the car. Now, I don't want to go through all those steps to get the car where I want it before I take off. Unfortunately, you don't have any choice. Now, I realize that's not all that complicated, but when you pay this kind of money for this car, you ought to be able to set it the way that you want. Secondly is the center console control. The center console infotainment control area, let's say. It has a touch screen or a touch pad, and you operate it by, either pushing on it or rolling your hand across it or whatever, your finger, swiping it, which in itself is pretty darn cool. I mean, I like that. That is really neat. But the problem I have with it is it's in the center console. It's where I would normally put my arm. I mean, I don't drive around with both my hands on the steering wheel, So I've got to do something with this arm. And if I lay it across that control unit, chances are I'm going to swipe it, I'm going to push the button or the screen, and I'm going to change something when I don't really want to. Now, I can lay my arm on my leg, but who drives like that? I don't drive like that. I always have my arm draped over the center console, right across the middle, Now, I could throw my arm over into the other seat, But the problem with that is unless it's my wife that's with me, it might be a little uncomfortable driving around with your arm laying across somebody else's leg. I'm just saying. So I don't really care for that. I'd like that to not be there, or done a different way, I guess, so that I have something to do with my arm, Next is the run flat summer tires. First of all, I'll start with the run flat part. Run flats are a great idea, I think, but they're a harsher, stiffer ride, a firmer ride. I don't really care for that. Plus, I think that in order for run flats to really work properly, you have to have the right kind of failure. You have to run over the right kind of piece of metal or nail, If you have a blowout, let's say, the run flats aren't going to do you any good. This car doesn't come with any of that goop or stuff either that you put in the tire, and that's because they are run flats, I'm sure. That's supposed to alleviate the problem until you can get somewhere to get the tire repaired. Leads me to my next dislike, and that is the fact that there is no spare tire. I'm a stickler for that. Whenever I'm driving around in a car, I like the peace of mind of having a spare tire. And I think every car, unless you're driving something really exotic or, really high performance, and I know this is supposed to be a high performance or higher performance car, but it would be nice to have the option of a spare. Back to the summer tire part of this dislike, I guess, and that is that they are rated for 45 degrees Fahrenheit or higher. You're not supposed to drive on these tires if the temperature is below 45 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, I live in a climate where we have a winter, and for 4 to 5 months out of every year, it is below 45 degrees Fahrenheit, at least at some point during the day. Either in the morning, when I would leave for work, for instance, or later at night or during the evening when the temperature starts to fall. So that means if I do nothing, there are periods of time, long periods of time, where I can't drive this car. I don't like that. I didn't buy the car to park it in the garage and leave it sit. I bought it to drive it. So I think that the default on this car should be all-season tires. That's just the way it should come. There should be an option. If you want summer tires, because of whatever you're going to do with the car, you can have them. Now, of course, that would only apply to areas that actually have a winter, or the temperature is going to drop for long periods of time below 45 degrees. I think that's just fair to the buyer. But not an option. You can, of course, change out the tires if you want to, but you get to pay for that. It's not an even swap. That's a problem for me. The last item that I'll mention is the start-stop feature. This car comes with the dreaded stop-start, not stop-start, auto stop-start, I guess I'll call it, feature. And that is, for those of you who aren't familiar, when you stop the car for any period of time, the car shuts off. There is a button that you can push once you start the car and get rolling, just another thing you have to do to defeat that. But it doesn't stay off. In other words, when you stop the car, shut it off, the default is that feature to be on again. So you can run through the little procedure I mentioned, because you can set up an individual mode for this car where that feature is default off. But then you have to go through the whole procedure to get into that mode before you start the car. I hate that feature. I really wish it wasn't on here. I don't know if it's government or manufacturer mandated at this point. My guess is that it's something that the manufacturers have chosen to do themselves to comply with government regulation, but the government hasn't said that you have to use stop-start. I don't know. Anyway, those are 5 things excuse me, that I really don't like about the car. They are not deal breakers for me. Otherwise, I love this car. None of those things, obviously, would stop me from buying this car. I did buy the car. So, I just wanted to get on here, talk about those things for a minute. Leave a comment down below. Let me know what you guys think. Am I being unreasonable? Please give this video a big thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't before. And we'll see you next time on the web. Have a good day. Bye.
Mm-hmm.